Milla Jovovich brings the action in her new movie Protector, but unfortunately, so does that good old Hollywood convenience. Is her performance ballistic enough to keep you hooked, or will you be eye-rolling your way out the theater? Today we're talking about Protector, a very Taken/John Wick-esque action movie that follows Nikki, a mother on a brutal mission to save her daughter from a human trafficking ring. Welcome to Standalone. I'm Jared from the Grab Some Popcorn podcast, and today I'm giving you my solo review. So let's break down the plot a little bit. In Protector, Nikki is a highly trained American soldier who has spent most of her life deployed and away from home. Because of that, her relationship with her daughter is strained. Her daughter feels like her mother was never there for her, and that frustration starts to show in the form of a teenage rebellion. One night she sneaks out and Nikki finds out. Now here's where we start to see the first signs of that Hollywood convenience I mentioned earlier. Nikki somehow tracks down her daughter pretty quickly and ends up at the same bar she snuck out to. But by the time Nikki gets there, her daughter has already been drugged and kidnapped. And from that moment, the chase is on. Now with all that said, the best thing about this movie is definitely the action. Nikki's relentless rage is felt every time she makes a kill. Milla Jovovich plays the role with the same kind of brutality you expect from a John Wick or Jason Statham movie. And the movie doesn't shy away from showing the damage she takes either. She dishes out a lot of punishment, but takes plenty of hits along the way. Now, are the kills super unique or memorable? Not really, but they're brutal enough and paced well enough to keep you entertained for most of the movie's runtime. Now, unfortunately, this is also where the movie's biggest weakness shows up. A lot of the story just feels way too convenient. It starts with Nikki finding her daughter pretty quickly after she sneaks out, but it doesn't stop there. Once her daughter is kidnapped, Nikki is somehow able to track her down with very little real investigation. She's locating members of this crime syndicate, tracking down high-ranking people in the organization, and moving up the ladder almost effortlessly. Everything feels just a little too easy. Now, I get it, it's an action movie, but the really good ones build the story up. They make the protagonist work for the answers. There's usually some kind of investigation, some dead ends, and some struggle before they finally get to the big targets. Protector skips a lot of that, and because of it, the story can feel a little thin at times. It also feels like the movie is fast-pacing Nikki through the story just so it can get to the next fight scene. Alright, from here on out, we're getting into spoilers, so if you haven't seen Protector, you might want to come back to this part later. Now, before seeing this movie, I had heard there was a pretty big plot twist, and while I was watching it, I thought I had it all figured out. The police in this movie are so focused on chasing Nikki instead of going after the crime syndicate they clearly know exists, so I started thinking maybe they're in on it too. But that's actually not the twist at all. The real twist is that Nikki's daughter actually died earlier in the story, and Nikki couldn't cope with the loss. She keeps waking up in the hospital believing she's still on this mission to save her daughter, but in reality she's rescuing women who look like her daughter or women who are trapped in similar situations. So the movie kind of frames it as a bittersweet, even though like a bittersweet or even hopeful ending because she's still saving people. But at the same time, you basically got a mentally unstable person out there taking down criminals on her own. It's definitely not the ending I expected, but clearly it worked for a lot of people. Overall, I'd say Protector is definitely an action first, story second type of movie. And honestly, this movie probably could have turned into a franchise if the story had a little bit more depth to it. But with the way the ending plays out, it's hard to see where they could even take the story from here. There also just aren't enough interesting characters introduced to really build something bigger around. That being said, salute to Milla Jovovich because she absolutely commits to the role and brings the intensity the movie needs. But at the end of the day, I'm going to have to give the Protector an unprotected 3 out of 10. I can't really recommend this to most people, but if you're the type of person who watches every action movie that drops, then go ahead and pull the trigger on this one. All right, y'all, and that's my review. Be sure to leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of the review. Let me know what you thought of the movie if you saw it, and be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.